It's funny, no, I never, like I grew up loving combat. Like I was in Asia as a kid and I loved all the martial arts movies. Like I loved fighting and ninja weapons and all that. That was my life as a kid. And I've always played sports, but there was MMA, the UFC didn't exist then. So no one knew that that's what you could do. So I thought I was going to be like a baseball player or something. Like that was like, I played 10 years of baseball and I played football and I was like, and then I was finding fits in different martial arts. I was taking karate and this as a kid. And then I found Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, but not really, it was actually Japanese Jiu Jitsu. And it was with Aikido and it wasn't like what I wanted to do, but I was kind of loyal. I was a kid and I was like, I didn't want to leave my school, it was near my house. All my friends were doing Brazilian Jiu Jitsu like in another town. I was like, oh man, like I wish I could do that. That's what I want to do, wrestle like that. And then when I moved to Costa Rica when I was like 18, 19, I walked into a jiu-jitsu school. My cousin brought me, and it was a Gracie school, and a high-end Gracie school. And we were like, this is it. Then it clicked. And then no, I was doing jiu-jitsu, and my teammate here, Juanito, he started before me, and he had a lot of courage. He was a kid. He was fighting adults, and I was like, man, we're both purple belts. We were doing a lot of jiu-jitsu competitions and that, this and that. And then he just did a fight, and then I went with him to watch him, to support him. And it was kind of like, oh, why don't you fight? And I'm like, who? They're like, this guy, like this guy. I'm like, And then like, it kind of just happened, you know? It wasn't really like I planned it. And then, this is before obviously like taking care of like strength and conditioning and focusing and training for a fight. I was lucky that the other guy kind of broke because he was in Costa Rica. He was a foreigner from American top team. And he didn't like the atmosphere, it was loud and hot, so he kind of like, I did beat him first round with a submission, but he didn't go to fight, like I was hungry. And then the second fight I did was an 8-man tournament. So it was 3 fights in a night, MMA in Costa Rica, up to middleweight, and I'm only a 155 or 65. So I was matched up against all these tough fighters from Costa Rica that all like street fighters, whoever they were, 3 fights, 2 fights, 5 fights, 0 fights. We were like the beginning, it was the first MMA tournament in Costa Rica. And I was like, I was in it. And I was like, man, so now I gotta really train. And then I like trained, I remember I prepared like 2 months. I was running up mountains and I was doing everything I could. And I got 3 submissions, first round submissions.
Wow.
And I had I busted my ankle and I had taped up my ankle before. It was crazy. And then I got that was the first mixed martial arts champion in Costa Rica. And then I had a target on my back, because then all these guys are like, and then I'm like, oh God, like now I have to really train. And then I defended it again against another guy. I went down because I wasn't a middleweight. It was a middleweight tournament. And then they're like, okay, fight at 170. I'm like, okay. I weighed like 161. I'm like, why am I fighting at 170? I beat this other guy that was a huge guy in Costa Rica. Muay Thai fighters. We had a lot of Muay Thai, karate, just tough. Costa Ricans are tough, you know. And we were the best jiu-jitsu school, so I was a jiu-jitsu. And I had no striking whatsoever. I didn't know how to strike. I knew how to do one takedown and I could get you on the ground and like punch you. And then I would go through my submissions. But after those 2 fights, now I was an MMA fighter. You know, I couldn't go out, I couldn't back out. All my friends and people were supporting, and I was like, man, I'm doing this, like, man. And then I started going international, and then it's how it started. It's not like I could even stop now if I wanted to. But I'm a kind of goal setter. I like to set goals. Otherwise, what's the point of doing something, you know? So I'll make a goal, and then obviously I'm going to try to push to the best goal you can. So my goal at the time was to be obviously the best fighter in Costa Rica, then the best in Latin America. I fought for a Latin American championship fight as well, and then to be a world champion. Otherwise, what's the point of doing it, you know? So at least your name can live forever, you know? Money comes and goes, but your legacy, your win, you know, who you are in that moment, people will be like, wow, that guy was really good. They always say that about soccer players or basketball players, or Barry Sanders, football. Like, man, you see him run 10 seasons, he was like the greatest of all time. So that'd be kind of cool, you know, if you leave your small footprint in a good way throughout the world, especially being a Central American. You know, there's not many Central American fighters in any organization. There's a lot of boxers, but mixed martial artists, no. Now it's cool. I see a lot of young fighters from Costa Rica. They're traveling. They're in Thailand. They're in New Mexico. They're here with like MMA, UFC fighters, and they're kids. And I remember them when they were like just watching our shows. So yeah, it's grown a lot, and yeah. Well, in reality, what it was is my first jiu-jitsu coach, his name was Mauro Sergio, and he's a high-end Gracie black belt. Tough as nails guy. He got to Costa Rica, fought in Panama next to another country. 4 fights in a row one night, 8-man, like an 8-man or a 10-man tournament. Beat 4 guys, no weight classes. Fought some Russian guy, like tough guy. And his hard-nosed jiu-jitsu was like he was like, we were gym rating. Like he'd go to karate schools, like, let's fight Ariel, this guy. And I'm like, oh God. And we're in the ring, like MMA fights to show jiu-jitsu is better. He was doing that in Costa Rica. So this was Mauro Sergio, and he was with a DanielGracie black belt. And then Mauro at high-end school, DanielGracie and other Gracies are there too. So Daniel came to Costa Rica to do a seminar and train with Mauro, which is more his student more than Hyen. Hyen was around, but how Hyen was as a person, he was not always around for, I guess, my coach, and my coach wasn't always around for me either. He like what happens that it just kind of comes down. So my coach wasn't really there for me, but I created a really great relationship with DanielGracie, very nice guy, Pride veteran, IFL fighter, world champion, big guy, 240, big black belt. Like he's been a black belt since '92. You know, he's been doing jiu-jitsu since he's 3. So I met Daniel in Costa Rica maybe about 13, 14 years ago. And then I would always go to New York and train and sleep on his couch and train at Renzo's. And then I just kind of like was part of the Renzo. Like my first MMA fight, we said DanielGracie, but then the first international fight, Hyen had passed, and we were adopted kind of by Renzo. So we just went into Renzo. We stayed in the family. So ever since my whole career, I've been representing DanielGracie. You know, and then Daniel's my head coach, though. You know, it's just the way it goes. Credit has to go where credit's due. It's never me. It's not me. I have like a million people that work with me. Like the guys, like my wrestling coach here is super credentials. Like, man, he's like a NCAA 2-time champion, North Carolina. He's an Ultimate Fighter coach. He coaches Eddie Alvarez, who just kicked Gaethje's butt. You know, he coaches all the girls on the Ultimate Fighter. You know, he coaches Damian Maia the last 8 fights. He was doing well. He lost a couple here, but man, he's got. And I live with him every day. I'm like, let's go train. I just gave him his purple belt because, man, it's impossible to fight him with a gi on. He's just like, it's like trying to hog tie a steer or like a goat, like a full-grown goat or something. You can't hold him down. So Daniel and I gave him his purple belt. But yeah, it's a great family. You know, I wouldn't. But now, I mean, when you get to the highest level, you've represented your flag and everything. There's still now like there's rivalries, but there's a lot of mutual respect. Whereas in the beginning, you're like fighting each other a lot. Like we would get into street fights against other teams all the time. And it was over martial arts stuff, you know, like couldn't settle it on the mat, let's settle it on the street, then go back to the mat and do this, you know.